It's fabulous to have you with us here on Intruders TV. I'm Jules Hallam, and we're here at the Qwartz Electronic Music Awards, and it's a real pleasure and an honour to introduce one of the most forward-thinking artists within electronic music, Mr. Anthony Shakir. I give you.
Thank you.
How
very
are you,
much.
sir?
I'm doing fine. Forward thinking. That's kind of funny to me, but
Why is that?
Because I used to look before trying to forward think how could I pay rent and do records and stuff. So I guess it is forward thinking if you're thinking about it like that. How you gonna pay your rent? Trying to make a record.
Yeah. And so we're here in Paris with you now. And are you familiar with the French electronic music scene, or is it somewhere you kind of pass through every now and again?
Well, I've been here I think 3 times. I know French house is its own thing. Daft Punk gets all the credit for it, although
Absolutely.
I mean, I'll get into another side story with that. I mean, I like their music
Please
or whatever,
do.
but my thing with Daft Punk, I like their records. They were inspired by Chicago house, I think, and cause on the Homework album they had Dan Bell's name in the credits or whatever, and they thank you or whatever. And they obviously like house music. They always like house music. And I think one of the guy's father was a musician in the disco era. And but the thing about Daft Punk is I like their music, but in America when their records came out, they act like they invented house music. But that's how America does anything with black people. They want to give everybody credit but black people.
And it's fair to say that you're a true veteran of the electronic music scene, and how kind of without being rude, of course.
Oh, no.
And why was the kind of the Chicago, Detroit house movement so instrumental and influential on the world electronic music scene? Do you think?
I will say, I'll go back. I can remember hearing some dance records in the early '80s before house had a name. I remember hearing stuff in the '70s that kind of you can still play some of it now from the disco era that wasn't house, but you could apply house to it now. But house to me, I just liked it because it was different. It was different than at that time in the '80s. R&B it got shitty. I just didn't want to hear it no more. And I wanted something different. And I like synthesizers. And one of my favorite artists was Thomas Dolby, because I like his synth sounds. And I discovered electronic music through the pop end of certain things. I didn't get all the extreme stuff with it, but I would hear little bits here and there and stuff. But I think where it started and where it is now, I didn't expect to see happen like it is or did. I'm glad it did. I'm glad I could do it. I'm glad I'm a part of it. But I look at it was Chicago first, because they started doing their thing the way they did it. But Chicago was more a continuation of disco, whereas techno was more the machine, the tools to make it. And it was based more on the sounds than disco. So I know that from knowing the guys that did it.
And was it Detroit that first kind of embraced the techno? Because obviously Chicago had the house
you
thing.
got to go, when you think of Detroit tech, you got to go straight to Juan Atkins first. Because when they did that tech compilation on with Virgin in England, they were doing the interview, and Derek May wanted to call it Detroit house. But Juan's like, no, it's techno, Detroit techno. He labeled it that way because he was a part of Cybertron that had great seminal records that are classics to this day. I get to say this in an interview too.
Please do.
No, because Juan Atkins is the only guy that can stand on a street corner and hear his record in somebody else's car. None of the rest of us can do that. None of us.
Because throughout your illustrious career, you've been fortunate enough to work with the likes of Juan Atkins and Carl Craig. And did you find that Juan Atkins was a real kind of visionary? It was him who kind of started the whole thing, or was it kind of a group of people?
Well, I can look at it I remember when his Cybertron record came out, Ali's the Almighty and Cosmic Rain Dance on the 7-inch. I remember walking 2 miles to buy that record because Mojo was playing on the record. It's one of the records I got to find out what that is, because it's I wasn't buying a lot of records because I didn't have any money or didn't know I could buy them, and because I was kind of retarded like that, But I wouldn't use that. That's disrespectful. But so it's I just didn't know I could do things like that. But I remember Mojo played that record, Electrifying Mojo played that record on radio. It was everybody liked it. It was unique and didn't sound like anything else, but we liked it. And when I could buy it, I did buy it. I didn't know I would end up meeting them and working with them, but I'm glad I did. And but I look at I will say he did start techno. He was techno because it was, like I said, Derek wanted to call it Detroit house, and it's house-ish because I don't make distinctions between house and techno. It's some of them are houseier, some are more techno-y, but I try to make something that I can play 5 years after I make it. That's what I do.
It's fascinating to hear more about the history behind that whole scene, because I only got into electronic myself a few years ago. And
what do you mean by a few years ago? So you missed out on the soft cell guys when they was doing that Tainted Love shit, because that's kind of electric.
Yeah, that's way behind me. So I'm kind of rediscovering it now.
No, that was a cover song. But I heard on somewhere the other day. It was a crazy, campy, great song. But it's a great song because I think a song trumps everything. So to me, anyway.
And jumping forward to today, how influential is Detroit and Chicago on the world music scene, would you say? Has it still got that kind of power west, that excitement? Or is it just part of kind of an international contrast?
Well, no, it's international music. Like, I didn't know that it would take me around the world, personally. I think it's over here in Europe, y'all have a different approach to it because, one, y'all still like records. Y'all still buy records, y'all still play records.
True that.
Whereas in America, it's like, because the pop machine, they want you to buy the newest thing now, whatever it is, so they can sell you some other crap. And so, because that's all it is product placement for anything, for most part. I like to believe, maybe I'm arrogant in this, I think Detroit techno was still about music. I think that's the thing that kept it going through. It was about the music. And Chicago House was about the music too. It was about the disco music though, but it was the continuation of disco. So.
And something that's fascinating as well about the US market, there's a lot of hip hop, there's a lot of pop music, but you know, it's almost like the Detroit scene. It's kind of underneath the cracks, if you like. And there's still some great artists like Theo Parrish, Marcellus Pittman, still doing it old school.
They're doing what they do. They do what they do. They got their own unique vision with what they do and how they do it. But Detroit has always been a musical city, even before Motown. Detroit had a thriving jazz scene, and like that's what Berry Gordy got some of his musicians to do the Motown music and stuff. So it continued on until Motown pulled up, and like I guess I like to believe we continue the Motown ideal, even though we don't make the money that Motown made or does, because we don't make hit records with people that sing. You know, we make records that you got to think of what it is. You can make it whatever you want in your mind, but that's the way I look at it.
Absolutely, and I was lucky enough to interview Urban Tribe not too long ago.
That's my buddy, yeah.
Yeah, legend, absolute legend. So passionate about his music.
That's funny you said it that way. I can't wait to get back and tell you, I heard you was a legend, man. They told you, tell me more about your legendary status, man. I want to hear all about it.
Absolutely, and something
I can say that about him. I call him Urban Tribe here, Micron Audio. The thing, his approach was the way he did beats. That's what when we worked in the record store. But I like his approach to beat making. It's like, and I was intrigued trying to figure out how to make beat a certain way. But the way he did it was the answer. I was like, oh, that's how you do it. So I learned a lot from him.
Certainly. It's kind of, there's something about his music which is really unique. It's kind of almost turbo electro, if you like. It's really
you know what? I think it. Electro,
You're cringing there.
No. I can live with that. That's the way you can sell it on T-shirt to the little kids that don't know nothing about it when they eating they cheesy puffs. You know, the cheesy puffs or something.
Sure.
But you know, with what he did is just like I know it was like an antithesis to house. It was anything but house to him.
Sure.
So, and he pulled a coup to me. He got his own sound rhythmically, which is the key to thing. You got to have your own sound to be heard sometimes.
Absolutely. And one of the points that he was making when we sat down for a chat was he was kind of saying that over in London, we have this impression of the Detroit scene as loads of people all really passionate about one thing.
Yeah,
he was kind of saying, well, it's a few people who are still really passionate and still doing it like I used to do, but there's a lot more artists kind of using the Detroit brand, if you like, to push their music when, some of them aren't even from Detroit.
Yeah.
Do you experience that as well?
I don't pay attention, but they exist. They've always been here since we were doing it back then, especially in England. But England buy records, and they could do that with their own people. And he's right about that. As far as passion, now America, I'll say Detroit specifically, it's about making some money. It's not about passion or art. That's why Detroit, I'll go to hip hop. Detroit was not a hip hop town, it's a rap town. That's why they like Run DMC was doing their thing. We grabbed it. We liked that too. Well, I did especially. I tried like a lot of everything, but it was rap. And they were hip hop and more than hip hop. But But Detroit, they like stuff real basic and simple to the point. So and it's like you gotta remember they like what they like and they love it. But it's not about passion. It's about who getting paid. Whoever makes the most money, who they tend to like. That's who they really kind of get behind. So.
Absolutely, and let's now talk a little bit about what you've been doing over the last almost 20 years, I guess, that you've been making music. And you were saying earlier that you were listening to some of the sounds that are coming out of Chicago and some of your colleagues as well. And is that what kind of inspired and motivated you to make music, or is it just something that's ingrained in the culture?
I can say for me, I've been in the records all my life since I was a kid. And my mother could tell you, but she's not here. And when I found out some things, I remember asking Jeff Mills. I remember Jeff Mills was DJing a party for high school one day. And he had an SP12 drum machine with him when he did his show. When it was done, I said, "Hey, Jeff, man, is that what they used to make the rap records?" He said, "Yeah." So I said, "I got to get one of these things." So then Tyree Cooper did a gig too. He did a gig in Detroit. And he had an SP12 too. He had 1200. I said, "Hey, man, is that the machine they used to make rap records?" He said, "Yeah." So I said, "I got to get one." So Kevin Sonderson let me get one he had so I could make rap records for his sister. And I tried to do it, but it didn't happen. It didn't work, but I did do the records for her. But I think my thing, like I said, all I ever want to do is figure out how to make records or whatever. And like I had no idea that I would have an influence on things or whatever. I just wanted to be a part of the scene. I didn't know. My thing talk about Detroit techno especially is like when Detroit techno was happening back then, I didn't know I was in the middle of a revolution. I had no idea because I didn't travel. I didn't get out. I didn't know I could travel because I had no confidence and I was shy and scared to ask. But I thought you had to have training to do this stuff. Thought you had to know music. I took music classes in college, took some in high school, but I was a bad drummer. I couldn't keep time, and I didn't have a hi-hat cymbal. I didn't know I could buy it myself.
Right.
Until you know, you don't know.
Sure, absolutely.
And like in the end, but I love drummers, and but I just didn't know I could do some things myself, till I knew I could do things myself.
Absolutely. And how's your approach to music changed over your kind of 20-year career? Are you still doing things the same way you were 20 years ago, or have you kind of moved with the times, as it were?
Well, I do stuff with the computers more. Like if I got access to the hardware stuff, I'll use that too. My thing was I'll use whatever I can to make a record. If I got a beat on a tin can, I'll do that. But I'm not gonna sing because I can't sing. So, and that's what somebody told me, like, yeah, if you could just sing, you'd be all right. I said, I can't sing. All black people can't sing, and I'm one that can't.
Oh, I love that attitude. So I think it was John Lennon who said once, I'm a musician. Give me anything and I'll get a fucking sound out.
Hey, John Lennon was one of the greatest ever. He was one of the greatest ever.
And so we're just going to wrap up now. And I wanted to ask you, what's next for your music? Where are you hoping to go? Are you just going to do it as you've been doing, or have you got a vision?
Trying to keep doing what I'm doing. Trying to get the new high-tech toys so I keep up with things and try to keep up with the sound so I don't get left behind. Or just to stay involved, not so much current, just involved, because I think that's most important. If you're just involved in it, if you're involved in it, you can keep doing things or whatever.
Fascinating words from Mr. Anthony Shakir. Thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you.
Thanks for having me, man.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.